thank you for giving us this opportunity to interview you. And you've been we only see you obviously on Fox Sports, but we always are very happy that when you're there, you really give a lot of info and make it fun for every one of us out
Oh,
there.
thank you.
Yeah. So first of all, Edward, MotoGP, it's really very exciting. I think with the COVID being there, it's really I don't know if it's equalizing it or it's making everyone a little tentative. How can you give us a rundown on what was the effect of COVID last year and what do you think it will do again this year?
Yeah, it was such a weird season last year, wasn't it? I don't know if COVID was the equalizer or Mark Marquez being injured was the equalizer, but it was definitely one of the most open seasons I can remember in recent history. Unfortunately, yeah, the pandemic put paid to some races. We didn't get as many as we would have liked, and we didn't get the Asian races, which we obviously love having over here, and those continue to grow every year. So it was a shame that they couldn't come out to this part of the world, and it was just a European calendar. But this year, hopefully, they seem to have got everything to the point where we will have the full 21 races, 19 scheduled at the moment. Those ones in Argentina and America just have to be moved somewhere in the calendar. A reserve circuit in Indonesia, the Mandalika circuit, could come into play, seeing how things go towards the end of the year. And I've just been really impressed by the safety protocols and everything that they had in place since last year, because I think at the very start of 2020, I don't think we even imagined there being any racing at all. I was catching up with the riders who were all at home in Spain or Italy or wherever they were, and they were basically saying, I don't know, man, I think this might just have to be cancelled because there was no light at the end of the tunnel. So for Dorna and MotoGP to be able to get the season going and to have such a fantastic campaign at the end of it, they really need to be applauded. And even in Doha just this past week, riders have been getting their vaccinations, the first shots. Marc Marquez traveled over from Spain, where he wasn't eligible for a vaccine, to Doha just to get the vaccine and then go back to Spain. But hopefully with the paddock vaccinated as well, we should see some return to normality for MotoGP, at least this year.
Okay, so now I'll put you on a spot. Who do you think will be the top 5 riders out there?
It's always tough with MotoGP because you'd have to say there are probably about 10 or 12 riders that could ultimately win the title. And I mean, last year, I don't think many would have picked Joan Mir at the very start to be the champion. So you'd have to say Joan Mir has to be amongst the 5 just because he was last year's winner. Although it'll be interesting to see how he deals with the pressure of being the defending champ, because he was able to spend so much of last year flying under the radar. And then when the spotlight did fall on him, the pressure got to him a little bit. In Valencia, for example. So we'll have to see how he deals with that. Marc Marquez, of course, has to be talked about always when it comes to MotoGP championships. When will he return? We're still not entirely sure. He went to Doha last week to get the vaccine, but then he went back to Barcelona. He got back on a bike for the very first time just a couple of days ago, and he looked pretty good. There was no caution thrown to the wind there. His arm, which was the one that caused him the problem last year, was down on the asphalt. He was doing some good shapes out there on the bike. I'm still not sure that he will take to the grid for the first race. He is on the entry list, but that's just a protocol more than anything else. And then it's the question of how he'll come back, because he's always ridden like he's invincible, like nothing could stop him, until something really did stop him last year. So whether he comes back as a more cautious Marc Marquez, or he still just goes all out, throwing everything at it to try and get that race win, we'll have to see. But you know what? Even if Marc Marquez isn't at 100%, Marc Marquez at 90% is probably still good enough to win races. So Marquez has to be there. Yeah. Jack Miller looked really good in preseason testing in Qatar, topped the timesheets, and I think that he's really got what it takes to ride that Desmo Sedici. They had such a disappointing 2020, did Ducati, with Petrucci and Dovi. They both knew their futures lay elsewhere, and they didn't have a lot to gain. They didn't really have any incentive to do particularly well. They rode well, but there was no real caution thrown to the wind. They very much balance the risk over the reward, whereas Miller has a lot to prove. He's an absolute animal, a beast on that bike, we know, and I think he's really going to be able to extract the maximum out of the Desmo Sedici. What's that? 1, 2, 3.
How about the Yamaha? Yeah, the Yamaha team driver.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you saw it coming. Fabio Quartararo. A championship contender for so long last season. He got off to such a great start, didn't he, with those back-to-back wins, and then his title charge just fell apart towards the latter stages. And when I spoke to him recently, he freely admitted that it was a psychological issue more than a riding issue that cost him that title. He didn't know how to handle the pressure. He didn't know how to be able to block all that noise of the title out and just concentrate on the racing. So he's brought in a sports psychologist this year to help focus his mind a little bit better. And as long as Yamaha can sort out those inconsistencies, we saw engine blowups, we saw technical failures for all 4 Yamahas on the grid. If they can sort that out, then I think he could be a real threat, especially with an extra year of experience under his belt. And Franco Morbidelli, his former teammate, second in the Riders' Championship last year. Again, like Mir, I don't think we expected to see Franco so high up. But he is the one man, I would say, amongst that younger generation who really knows how to handle the pressure. He's so cool and calm and collected. And he's got Valentino Rossi, his mentor, in the garage alongside him, who will be able to give him a lot of feedback, a lot of information about that bike as well. And I think that those two as a partnership could be very successful for the team. And I think as a partnership, that will help Morbidelli as the individual. So that's 5, but I'm not saying that's the only 5. There are a whole bunch of others I haven't mentioned, Vinales, Rins, they could all be up there coming the end of the season.
Yeah, here in the Philippines, obviously, it's a Valentino Rossi fan country. And as you know, even the Yamaha, the team, they put the Philippine flag. I don't know if you noticed that on their bikes. And it's just because people here are crazy about Yamahas. So what do you think about Valentino? Will he have something left in him to at least fight for the championship or even for podiums?
He definitely has a lot left in the tank. We saw that just in testing this past week in Qatar. He set his fastest ever lap around the Losail International Circuit. And he was so happy at the end of it. In his debrief, he said that he felt like a little kid again. He was enjoying racing and he was enjoying riding. And I think that's the key for him. He hasn't enjoyed the racing part as much in recent years because there has been so much upheaval in Yamaha, a lot of pressure on his shoulders as the lead rider in that team, as the man responsible for helping the development of the bike. And now Petronas, he can just get back to riding and just doing what he does best and having a freedom that he hasn't probably had since he entered the 500cc class way back when. I'm not sure he can battle for the championship per se. He hasn't won one since 2009, and I just think his body is not necessarily up to a consistent charge every single race, but definitely I think he can win races. And you talk about the part that he plays. I think that he'll play a huge part in just the success of Petronas as a whole. We talked about, the positive impact that he'll have on Morbidelli as well. And just how great is it to see this Asian team and Malaysian team only 3 years into their MotoGP career to have arguably the greatest rider of all time with them. It's very, very exciting for us in this part of the world.
Right. And obviously the Suzuki World Champion team. What do you think of, them holding on to their 2020 bikes instead of the new one?
It's going to be tough for them this year, isn't it? I think last year was such a unique season. And they were the benefactors of that. But whether that can be replicated this year, I'm not entirely sure. I think Alex Rins, out of the 2 boys in blue, I think Rins probably has a better chance of winning the championship than Mir. Not to take anything away from Mir, but I just feel that Rins was a little bit hard done by last year in terms of injuries at the very start of the season. And he really found his groove towards the end. And if he can keep that form coming into this year, then I think he could be a real threat. But let's not forget that Davide Brivio's left. he was such a huge key component of that team, and now he's gone to Formula One. So it'll be interesting to see how Suzuki go. The good thing for them is that whilst we've seen so many other teams chopping and changing riders, they've got the same lineup that they had last year. So there's some consistency there, but I'm not entirely sure that they're going to be able to replicate their success from last year.
Yeah, especially I think Qatar is a track that's really made for Ducati.
Yeah, Ducati's done well there the past couple of years, and then before that, Yamahas have really stolen the show. And I think, when it comes to the podium prospects, it would probably be between the Ducatis and the Yamaha. I still reckon we might see an all Yamaha podium, something like Morbidelli, Quartararo, and Vinales. But I think if anybody's going to kind of break that trio, it will be Miller on the Ducati. And you know what? You want to do well in the first race because a week later they're doing it all again at the same place. So you want to be able to have that winning feeling from the very start, so you can carry it into the next race.
Yeah. And last question. I think we don't have much time. Okay. How about the dark horse KTM? What do you think of the team?
It's going to be tough for them because Pol Espargaro has been really the man that's led that project ever since they entered MotoGP. And now for him to have gone to Honda, they've lost a key component of that. They are taking huge leaps and strides, aren't they, every year in terms of their development. And I think Dani Pedrosa has to take a lot of congratulations and plaudits for just how he's been helping the project along. Definitely a dark horse, but there are so many dark horses, even all the way back to, say, a Sponsorama Racing with the two rookies in Marini and Bastianini. They've both got essentially Ducati contracts now. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? When you think back 2-3 years ago, that Avintia team, you wouldn't have thought anything of them. Just scoring some points would be fantastic, but it just goes to show that how much talent there is really amongst the entire paddock now, that even they can be considered a podium challenger. Many thanks, of course, to Johann Zarco last year and the way that he guided them forward. So what a season it's going to be, man. It's honestly, you can see every single rider in the paddock finishing on the podium at least once this season.
Yeah, and that's why I hope COVID doesn't, play its ace again and infect some of these top drivers. Anyway, I'm also happy just to mention that, it's, in MotoGP, at least they consider satellite teams that they can give, current bikes to, or even last year's bikes. But I hope it's done in other forms like F1 especially, so we can have more good drivers on good cars. So congratulations, Edward, and I hope so top 3, last one for Qatar will be Yamaha.
I'm gonna go. I'll say Quartararo to win it. And then Vinales second, Morbidelli third.
Okay, no Ducati. No Ducati.
I'll let them get on the podium in the second race.
Okay, Edward. So again, thank you very much, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Absolutely, look forward to it. Good to speak to you.
Bye.